He was one of the greatest athletes to ever play basketball, and his family has roots in our area. He was known as Pistol Pete Maravich. Today we have Mark Kriegel, the author of a new book called Pistol, The Life of Pete Maravich, here with us today. Great to have you here with us.
Good morning.
Well, how did you pick Pistol Pete Maravich to write about?
Well, I grew up a few blocks from Madison Square Garden in New York City, and I was a big Knicks fan. And Pete had some of his better games against the Knicks. But really my interest here was more about fathers and sons. And to my mind, this is about as compelling and powerful and nuanced the father and son story as I know of.
And it really is. In fact, a lot of the book is about his father, Press Maravich, who grew up here in Aliquippa. How did Press Maravich's upbringing in this particular region especially have a lot to do with his relationship with his father?
Press Maravich and Aliquippa have everything to do with the creation of Pistol Pete. And in fact, it has a lot to do with changing the game. You cannot understand Pete, or Pistol, without first understanding Press Maravich. And he was born Southside Pittsburgh. His father died in a mill accident, almost cut in half. The family moves out to Aliquippa, and he grows up right next to the mill, almost alongside the mill in Aliquippa, under the light of the Bessemer furnace, breathing in all the black stuff that came off the smokestacks. And he's told that he's really not good at anything. And he's basically warehoused in what we would call a special ed class today.
Right. In fact, I think we may have a picture of him in that special class.
At the age of 14, a missionary gives him a basketball, and his life blossoms. It changes entirely. He becomes the hero of the town. His natural charisma comes out. His ability comes out. And what happens is he associates basketball with a kind of salvation. Basketball becomes his religion.
And I love how you say that in the book. He found God. It wasn't necessarily the Jesus that Pete found later, but it was the basketball.
And he gives his son to this game. Press decides early on, and Press was a brilliant basketball mind. He decides early on he is going to build the perfect basketball machine. And in Pistol Pete, he comes very, very close. Unfortunately, it also comes at an exorbitant price to the family. You know, there's a price in making history, and the father and son do, in fact, make history. For his 44 points a game, the NCAA scoring record, to my mind, will never be broken. It'll last a lot longer than, for instance, Babe Ruth's home run record.
Wow. And you must have spent a lot of time in this area because your descriptions of the region are so detailed and truly accurate.
Thank you. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Aliquippa. I think that the template for the story, for father and for son, is cut, you know, right here in western Pennsylvania.
And in fact, their lives ended very close too. Tell me about that ending, because it's unusual. Well,
in April of 1987, Press is dying of cancer, and they had gone full circle now. In a sense, the payoff scenes in the book is that they trade places. That Pete becomes almost Press's nurse as he is dying. And the very tender scenes after these guys have been going at each other for decades. And when Press dies on his hospital bed, Pete leans in and he says, "I'll see you soon." And just months later, from April to January, Pete's playing a pickup game at a church in Pasadena, California, and he dies. Drops dead of what is basically a heart attack. He was born without one of two artery systems that feed the heart.
And you said it's amazing he really even lived that long, to be honest.
Most people who are born with that don't live past 20.
Wow, that's incredible. Tell me about, for people who aren't as familiar with Pistol Pete, what kind of achievements he did make in basketball and why he really captured the hearts of America.
Well, first of all, by the numbers, 44 points a game, no one will ever do that. He's one of the top 50 NBA players. But I think that more than that, there is an authentic magic in the way that he moved. And all of this was really created, or much of this was created with his talent, but also with the drills that his father had given him, the homework basketball drills. He anticipates really what the modern basketball player is, the way that he moves, the combination of size and phenomenal dexterity. And there are kids today, and it cuts across all the natural demographic divides, age, race, class, who are still imitating him, still practicing the drills that his father gave him.
Wow. And you also addressed the personal issues in his life, the alcohol battles, the depression as well. How did he overcome those?
Well, it was, you know, he had an enormous burden. He had to be the great white hope for the NBA, which is a sort of a thankless task that he certainly never asked for. He had set the bar so high in terms of scoring in college that, again, it was a thankless task. Here was a kid who a 43-point game was a lousy afternoon.
Wow.
There was an idea of perfection, of basketball perfection, that he had to live up to that could rarely be achieved.
Yeah. And so he had to turn to that, but he turned to Christianity in the end. A very fascinating life, and thank you for recording it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Again, the book is called Pistol, The Life of Pete Maravich by author Mark Kriegel, and you can look for it in bookstores now.